Haven't you ever wondered what presidents would be best in a basketball game? Well, we're going to answer that today. I have on special guest Miguel, and we're drafting basketball teams from current and former U.S. presidents. It's a fun episode, a lot of fun. I hope you enjoy it. If you're looking for Super Bowl content, which I know you are, I'm sure you're saying, where's the Super Bowl preview? Where's the summary of the AFC and NFC championship games? Where's talk about Kyrie Irving or Aaron Rodgers or anything else in sports? We're going to get to more serious sports in the next episode. This one's just a fun one. Believe me, we'll cover the Super Bowl before it happens and a lot of off-season content and a little bit of discussion on Kyrie and my hopeless Brooklyn Nets. But without further ado, let's get into our conversation with Miguel. All right, everyone, we're getting ready for our next edition, our first edition, I suppose, of the NBA presidential draft. We're going to do like 5 of these, so we list through all the presidents eventually, but not with Miguel. So we have special guest Miguel here. Miguel, say hi to the people.
Hello.
Miguel was featured on a few episodes earlier in the history of Lots of Thoughts, a sports podcast, including ones where we drafted mascots and another one where we drafted mascots. It's really
Can
an
I say
exciting time.
that was the most successful episode on Spotify?
It's not.
It
on
was.
Spotify,
You
on
sent me
Spotify,
the.
it is. But overall, across all platforms, it's like third.
Overall, against all platforms.
You got to catch up, Miguel. You're not driving the viewers like you once were.
I will. This will be the most viewed. It'll be the most viewed. It's true.
So what we're doing here, Miguel's hinting at, and our backgrounds are hinting at, we're drafting NBA teams from current and former U.S. presidents, alive or dead, doesn't matter. We're bringing them back, putting them in the time that they were president on a basketball court. So the way this is going to work, we're going to take turns picking a player. We're going to have 6 positions overall. So for those of you not too familiar with sports, we'll break down the basketball positions. Miguel himself needed these breakdowns just, a few hours ago. So
I don't know what he's talking about.
So first we have a point guard. Point guard's like the floor general. They're the one that runs the offense. They're usually smaller. They shoot well, but their main job is passing, getting everyone involved, and setting up the overall play. Really kind of the orchestrator of the team. Then we have the shooting guard, usually a little bit taller, known for shooting the ball. It's really not too complicated. Oftentimes a little bit better of a defender, but their number one quality is to be able to shoot. Number 3, we have the small forward. This is kind of your athletic, rangy type. Think of LeBron James, if you will, if you're familiar. Someone who's very athletic, moves around a lot, makes athletic plays, scores from all over the court. And then 4th, we have power forward. So someone who's a little more stocky, a little more physical, someone who's a bruiser that can, make short shots, can sometimes make buckets a little bit further, but is often a little more defensive focused, gets rebounds, that sort of thing. And then the center is the 5th position. So this is the biggest guy on the court. This is a guy who's blocking shots, who's dunking the ball, who's playing close to the basket. Not always as shifty and athletic, but still a solid athlete overall. And then lastly, we're going to draft a 6th man. So 6th man is the term for the first player off the bench. Generally, since they're brought in after the starters go out, they're relied on a lot to do a lot of things in short amount of minutes on the court. Score the ball really quickly, set up their teammates on the bench who are not that great compared to the starters. So really kind of being the go-to guy in the second unit.
Amazing.
Bill, do you have any questions?
Yeah, that all went over my head. Okay. I just went by vibe alone.
Okay.
So.
Glad you're.
I was I feel like that'd be good.
Sure. Okay.
Pure vibes.
The way we're going to do this, we're going to do this snake draft style. So the person who has the first pick is going to take one person. Next person is going to take 2. Next person is going to take 2, back and forth until we fill out our teams. So the way we're going to decide who goes first is Miguel is going to try to name all 4 NBA teams from the state of California. If he does that correctly.
There are 4?
Okay, I'll give you 3. You got to name 3 out of the 4. And if you get all 3, then you go first.
The Warriors.
Okay.
The Lakers.
That's 2.
I can't swear at this podcast. Warriors, Lakers, Chargers are a football team.
That's correct.
Okay, I covered all of the Northern California. Must be a Southern California team. The Angels are baseball.
Correct.
Who was? Can I have a hint? A wee bitty hint.
Um,
Hmm.
I'll give you a hint. There is one team in Northern California, one team in Southern.
It's not a hint. You've just made my options worse.
Give you another option.
Can I have a color?
You're not going to get it from a color. I promise you. Let me think. Let me think of how to give you a hint.
Raiders, A's, or
I'll give you a last hint. Okay.
All right, I'll take it.
The team in Southern California.
Mm-hmm.
His name is based off of when they used to be in San Diego because they played by the ocean.
Celtics are not from
California. They don't play in San Diego anymore, just to be clear. But their name comes from being by the ocean. It's a nautical term.
The seamen. I don't know. I give up.
You're giving up. So I'm gonna get the first.
No. It's the Mariner. No.
It's a baseball team.
Basketball.
Also from Seattle.
Water. Sea?
You could get the Northern California. I feel like the Northern California one might be easier.
I don't know, man. Who cares about not the Warriors or the Lakers? I don't know. I give up. You can go get first pick. My team's still gonna win.
So the Northern California was the Sacramento Kings.
I would never have gotten that.
Well, I figured there's only one other Northern California city you could have chosen for a team.
Is that a real, like, an NBA team?
Yep, and they have a wonderful celebration they're bringing in this year, which I posted about and you commented on this Instagram post. Big if true, as you did on all the Instagram posts. But they have a phrase whenever they win the game, they have a giant button that the player presses, and they light a giant purple beam into the sky from their stadium.
Planes are flying through it.
Yeah.
Who's the Southern California one?
The LA Clippers.
They're from LA? I didn't know that.
Wow.
Wait, where are the Lakers from?
LA. They share the stadium.
That's not fair.
Well, the Clippers are building a stadium. They have two baseball teams. The Angels and the Dodgers. And two football teams, the Chargers and the Rams.
Dang, LA.
And
you guys are
kind of two hockey teams with the Kings and the Anaheim Ducks. That's basically LA.
You know what LA stands for? Lots of teams. Teams is one word.
Close enough. Okay. I guess I'll start then. We're going in any order for positions. So there's a little bit of strategy. If someone's already picked a position, you can know that they're not picking that position in the future. But I'm going to start with shooting guard. I'm going to get my shooting guard out of the way. And I'm going to pick the only president who is known to ever play basketball.
You
and I'm going to pick Barack Obama.
Special guy. Oh my God.
6'2", weighing in at 175 pounds. Obama grew up in Chicago in the era of Jordan and the dynastic Chicago Bulls. So I'm hoping he plays exactly like Michael Jordan in this game. He was also famous for his pickup games that he played at the Oval Office while he was president, in case you didn't know that. Strong lefty jumper, if you know what that means, Miguel.
I'm a strong lefty jumper.
You have a strong lefty jumper. It means you have a jump shot, a strong lefty jump shot. So that's what I'm gonna look to him to, knock down shots. And he's a very athletic guy, so I'm ready for it.
I think that's such a cowardly pick because he is the only president with a basketball highlight reel. And there's so many presidents. You could pick someone more interesting. I feel like that's just the easy choice. I get it. He plays basketball, but whatever. Well, I get it.
You get 2 picks now, so you can.
I'll do point guard.
Okay.
Point guard. He's a special guy. He's loved by some, really hated by others. He's had an interesting legacy. He chose to go to the moon and do the other thing, not because it was easy, but because it was hard. Yeah, that's right. is JFK.
Wow.
JFK is my point guard because he's an athlete in his time. He played lots of sports. He played golf, played football. He was in the United States Navy. He saved his group by towing a dude with his teeth in the water. Like that's an athlete right there. And I think he's a good leader, a divisive leader for sure. But clearly, we have some people who are the fan
so
Aussie, but
so I thought I had JFK at a different position.
not
Small.
anymore. You don't.
So it was a good pick. I also, as my notes, I said that he was a free thinker and a locker room guy, if you will.
What does that even mean?
A guy who, just like you said, is a leader in the locker room. It builds good chemistry with the team because
See,
some
I
people like
think
him.
my main reason why I picked him is because he's young enough, like more recent enough to know what basketball is without his mind exploding, and he's athletic enough to actually do it. There's like, certain presidents recently who probably couldn't play basketball. And there's certain presidents who, if you describe basketball, they'd be like, what is that? I don't know.
That's
But yeah,
fair.
I
That's
picked
fair.
JFK as my point guard. He could lead the court. He's our team leader.
Okay, let's see.
And
What's your second pick here?
my second pick, I'm gonna go nicely with my first off bench.
Oh,
First off bench. Now, who do you think I'm gonna pick for my first off bench?
um,
Because I don't think you'll expect him.
I'm feeling you're an Andrew Jackson kind of guy.
Whoa! Whoa! We do not like that dude. I'm not an Andrew Jackson fan. He
Okay, okay.
sucks. Worst president, gotta say. Nowhere near my team. Well, my first off bench pick. He was, you might say, the first off bench pick of his presidency. When he had to be swapped in. His name is Gerald Ford.
Oh, that's not
Gerald
who I thought you
Ford.
were going with.
Yeah, see, unexpected, the dark horse. Gerald Ford, he was an athlete. He was a football player. Right? He's got that high intensity. He's running up and down the field all the time. When the coach tells him what to do, he'll do it, regardless of, you know, his energy, his ethics. He'll do it. He'll pardon Nixon. He'll do it. So you can expect Gerald Ford to be playing for 20 minutes and then, hiding off in the corner. People are like, who's that one president? But yeah, Gerald Ford, interesting guy. No one will remember him, but he's our secret weapon. Gerald Ford.
You took both of my small forward picks that I had as two separate positions. So I'm gonna have to switch some guys around here on my list, but it's okay. It's okay. I'm ready for it.
All right, it's your turn.
Okay. Let's see. I'm gonna first start out. I'm gonna get my power forward out of the way.
Okay.
So as I mentioned, power forward, someone who's a little bit stocky, a little bit of a bruiser, right? Guy who's going to play physical, guy who's not afraid to take some, physical hits from the other team.
Okay.
Who's resilient, who's round. And so I'm going to pick William Howard Taft.
No! What a stupid pick.
Coming in at 6 foot, 316 pounds. He's famous for getting stuck in his own bathtub.
Does the bathtub come with the draft?
There's no rules here. He could be swinging around that bathtub. But he's gonna be my bruiser down low, shoves you out of the way, he gets rebounds, doesn't play a lot of minutes because he's gonna be winded really early on. But
he's like Butterbean.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I'm looking for out of a power forward.
You want Butterbean.
Okay.
I can't believe you actually picked Taft.
Yep. Okay. And then
look at this dude. He's a big fellow. You know what? I support it.
I'm gonna go with my sixth man next. Yes, I am. I'm gonna go with William Henry Harrison. And here's why.
The hell?
Here's why.
Which one was he?
I believe he was the ninth president. I got the list here. Don't worry, we can look it up. He was the ninth president. Yes, from Virginia. But here's why I'm taking him. He's 5'8", 139 pounds. He's a smaller guy, right? He's quick. He's fast.
What,
He's ready to
what
orchestrate the
position?
offense. He's my sixth man, first guy off the bench.
Okay, I see.
He was a soldier by trade. So he's ready to fight. He's scrappy. He's high energy. But most of all, he famously died in a month. And so after taking over president, so that's what I want him to do. I want him to come in, put in good minutes. Not a lot of them. I don't need a lot out of William Henry Harrison, just like the country didn't get a lot out of for president. But he's just going in with the limited time he has and making the most of it. And so he's going to be my first guy off the bench.
Okay, that's valid. I'll take it. Sure, you picked the sickly old man and the guy got stuck in the bathtub. Was expecting more bold picks from you, but all right. Sure. My turn then. I'll pick center.
Okay.
I think we all know who center is. We all know. And that person's Abraham Lincoln. I picked Abraham Lincoln. And the reason why is he's tall. He's like 6'5", right? He's got the hat. He gets to wear the hat.
It doesn't really help him. It adds. Lot,
but... No, he can block it with his hat.
I think his arms reached higher than the hat. I'm just gonna say that.
It was a big hat. Don't you know, like Doug Dimmadome? He's got one of those hats. But anyway,
and parents, that Doug Dimmadome.
Yeah, Doug Dimmadome, owner of the Dimsdale Dimmadome.
Yeah, okay.
See, and I think another thing that will help, not just because of his height, I'm sure he was very good at, blocking the ball, but the misconception of his deep voice will help distract players, because in reality, he had a very high, squeaky voice. If you know that from historical record, it's like, my name is Abraham Lincoln. And then you see, like, Taft running through, and they just get like a mental shock of like, I thought that guy was like deep voice guy.
Okay, that's
and
fair.
Then boom. I will say, he has star power, but with that star power, we will need to hire a lot of security.
Yeah,
he can't stay away from the arena. Just stay focused. Always have someone behind his back.
I'm thinking this may be an issue for you. One other thing that I think may be an issue is that he's listed on the website I have 6'4", 180 pounds, and that's not very thick. He's gonna maybe have some injury issues, if you know what I mean, being a little too skinny out there on the court when William Howard Taft shoves him into the crowd.
Dude thinks someone he shoved over the Confederacy. You think he can't shove over the guy got stuck in a bathtub?
No, I don't, because William Howard Taft can still roll and then just get back on his feet. There's no issue. It's just like a sushi roll back to the bottom.
Abraham Lincoln.
Okay,
it's a good pick. Fought back the Confederacy. He gave his life. Amazing.
Who's your second
center?
Or your fourth pick now, I guess.
My fourth pick. What haven't you picked? You've gotten everything now, right?
I just have a shooting guard, power forward, and 6-man. So I still need a center, and I still need a small forward and a point guard.
Have I done a small forward? I don't think I've done a small forward yet.
No, you haven't. You have point guard, center, 6-man.
Yeah, my small forward, a very interesting pick. He's probably the most. No, not anymore. He was one of the most controversial presidents of our time. He has to be athletic. He has to be pretty versatile. And I picked George W. Bush.
Oh,
George W. Bush. Yeah, because he's an idiot. He's not the brightest guy. I think we can all agree after a few years, he's not the brightest guy. But that's what makes him versatile, because he'll do whatever you tell him to. Similar to Gerald Ford. But, you tell him like, oh, run down the court, shoot some baskets, do whatever. He'll be like, yeah, I'll do it. Pass him a beer. He'll get a little drunk before a game, but it's fine. It'll be fine. But yeah, I think he has the athletic ability. Haven't you seen him like watch this drive, doing that golf thing? Yeah, I think he would be a very good small forward.
I think I can't remember if it was him or his son, but I think it was him that was a baseball player at Yale.
No, that was his dad. That was HW.
Oh, you said George W. I apologize.
Yeah, HW was He went to the World Series for college.
Yeah, College World
Grow up.
Series, as it's called.
Yeah.
No, but
Yeah.
George W. Bush does still own the Texas Rangers. He's very involved in sports. So,
Yeah, he owns Texas Rangers. He's involved in sports. Not he's an interesting fellow. Not a fan, but I'm a fan from baseball. And again, he'll basketball. He'll do what's directed. He'll go to war on the court.
Okay.
Unjustified war
Okay.
on the court.
Okay, we're leaving that there. Okay. These are good picks. So I've got 2 picks now. And 3 positions left. I have a center, I have a small forward, and I have a point guard. Okay. First off, I'm going to be honest here. I have a depth chart of my picks here, a depth chart where I've got a guy at my point guard position who I don't feel is good point guard for my team, given he's got some controversial takes about members of my team. Otherwise,
Whoa.
I don't think they get along. I don't think they get along.
What racist did you pick?
So we're leaving him off. We're going with someone who, at point guard, just to be clear. So this guy, he's a born leader. He's ready to lead the team, distribute the offense, right?
All right.
You know where I'm going?
Go. Yeah.
Where do you think I'm going?
George Washington.
No.
What?
Why would I pick George Washington when I just said I'm not choosing my first pick because he was a racist? Do you think
true.
George Washington suiting up with Barack Obama?
He owned people.
I'm choosing a guy,
not a cool guy.
Was much later in the list of presidents, who was known for growing up with 6 brothers. So he had to be part of a team as a young child.
6 brothers?
He played football as a cadet at West Point, so he's athletic. He was a running back and a linebacker. He's weighing in at 5'11". No, he's weighing in 171 pounds, 5'11". I'm going with Dwight D. Eisenhower, general turned president. Later in the list, later than George Washington, is what I said.
Dwight D. Eisenhower.
He was the leader of the army. He's going to be the leader of the offense of the team, and so he's going to be my point guard.
Have you seen that picture of Dwight D. Eisenhower where he's crossing his legs and smiling?
No.
He's like,
That's
he's
fair.
very cute, Matt. I would think he would enjoy that. I can't believe you said I like Ike. You know,
I didn't say that.
Yeah,
okay.
but that's what you're implying.
I'm going to pick my center next. So Lincoln was a good pick. Lincoln, good wingspan, tall guy, defending the rim, right? That's what he's going to do. He's going to block shots. I'm going to go with someone who's just a little bit shorter.
I see. I know.
Measured at 6'3 3/4. So just a little bit shorter than Lincoln, but at 200 pounds. So we got someone who's got a little more size on him. I'm going to go with LBJ, Lyndon B. Johnson. There were some people who didn't like Lyndon B. Johnson. So I'm hoping those people are on the other team, and then they'll just get angry and not play well. Also, LBJ is known for coming into a situation where he probably shouldn't have been.
Yeah.
But, that's what we need him to do here. He's going to be in a tough matchup against Lincoln. So we need him to, do his job. And speaking of his job, he was a high school teacher. And so you have to think.
Oh, my God.
It's at some point, there was a situation where he had to sub for PE. I'm sure of it. I have no idea if this is actually the case, but this is what I have in my head, and I'm creating this scenario. And so this is at the time where basketball was really taking off in the country, back in the days of, when they were first letting diversity hit the basketball court. And that's what he's going to be. He's going to be on a diverse team. So I couldn't go with my original pick for that position either. But yes, I'm going with Lyndon B. Johnson as my center.
Will he be wearing pants as your center, or will he do the classic Lyndon B. Johnson and talking people with no pants?
I don't really care, honly.
That is,
if he's not wearing pants, he's going to.
As your team's manager, I feel like that's very irresponsible of you.
Well, we'll figure that out when we get there.
Don't you think the pantslessness will get him kicked out of the game?
No, I'm not worried about that.
All right. You know what? LBJ, I'll admit it's a very smart pick. You did take away my first pick for power forward. But, speaking of power forward, I have the true power forward. He calls his left arm the bull,
Oh.
and his right arm the bear, baby. That's Theodore Roosevelt. Woo woo! That man is built like a human keg of beer. He is literally my one note is classic big boy. Because he's a classic big boy. Like if you drew Roosevelt, you would only use circles. Tell me I'm wrong.
He is 6'2", 210. He's a chunky boy. This is your power forward. The power forwards on the court here. We got 6'2", 210 and 6'3", 316. The two biggest guys on the court by
Theodore
far.
Roosevelt could end life with his bare hands. He's probably ended a bear with his bare hands, Roosevelt. And I think, he wears glasses. So I think it'd be very cool. I saw a picture of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar wearing these goggles that he wore back in the day. Roosevelt could wear those.
Okay.
Yeah, and he would just barrel through the court. It would be amazing. That's my pick for power forward.
That's a good pick. I like that. It's a guy who could take a punch. So,
He'd punch the ref out, I feel like.
That's fair. Okay,
Who
you got
am
one
I
more
missing?
pick here. You got a let me see. You still have your shooting guard left.
My shooting guard. Oh. See, I have a more reasonable pick and one purely on vibes. Can I throw them both out and you tell me which is the reasonable one?
Sure, let's hear it.
The first one, the more reasonable one, is George Washington. Simply because I think he's the only president I could see, like from back in the day, like scoring some shots, man. Like, say what you will, he did own people, despicable human being by all accounts, probably. But I can see that man making shots. He's a career soldier. He wooden teeth. No, you don't need no mouth guard for that. Wooden teeth he stole by the but the alternative is Woodrow Wilson. I have no backing. I have no backing. But look at this man. He's like, surprisingly, he's like 5'10" or something. He's like really short. But
I'm listed at 5'11".
5'11". Okay, that's not bad. He looks like an old-timey basketball player, doesn't he? Like, don't imagine like the 80s and 90s. Imagine like when the sport first got started. Every player looked like Woodrow Wilson. They kind of look like you, Dylan.
you look much older, but
you look like Woodrow Wilson.
Okay.
So I was just going that purely off of vibes. I think I'll go with, you know what? I'll go with Woodrow Wilson. I don't need George Washington. He can stay chomping on his teeth, chopping down cherry trees. I don't need that guy.
Okay. It's a good pick. So to summarize your team, we have your point guard, John F. Kennedy, your shooting guard,
JFK,
Woodrow Wilson, your small forward, George W. Bush, your power forward, Theodore Roosevelt, and your center, Abraham Lincoln, and then your first guy off the bench, who's sixth man, Gerald Ford.
Amazing. Okay.
So I've got one more pick left.
All right.
And it's my small forward. And as I mentioned, both my small forward picks were JFK and Gerald Ford, which you took. So I'm going to have to go with someone who I didn't have in the small forward slot. I had this guy at shooting guard.
All right.
He's listed at 5'8", 174 pounds. Not a big guy. So he's going to be more like a switchy guy, more quick action kind of guy. He's going to take a lot of shots from the small forward position because I believe that he is a shooter at heart. And it's James K. Polk.
Who?
And I want to tell you why I'm picking James K. Polk, because you may be saying,
who is James K. Polk?
Well, listen, James K. Polk was the 11th president of the United States. And the reason I'm picking him is purely because his name is James Knox Polk, and we need him to knock down those shots.
I hate you. I hate this podcast. I hate
I'm
the
doing
world.
It for the pun. I'm doing it for the pun. James K. Polk. He's my small forward. And that's what we're going with.
What an embarrassment.
Okay, so to summarize my team, we have Dwight D. Eisenhower at point guard, Barack Obama at shooting guard, James K. Polk at small forward, William Howard Taft at power forward, Lyndon B. Johnson at center, and then the first guy off the bench, William Henry Harrison.
I think the only ones I'm jealous of on your team is LBJ and Obama. Everyone else on your team can rot, honestly.
I'd take LBJ over Abraham Lincoln. That's an easy choice. And William
I
Howard Taft is going to out physical Theodore Roosevelt. He's
no,
bigger.
he's
He's
not.
Rounder. He's belly bumping him out of the way.
Roosevelt chased down. He made the national forests and stuff to hunt down deer and elk on foot. That man. If there was ever a man, if there was a contest of presidents fighting presidents, I honestly think Roosevelt would be on top.
That's fair.
It's the
but
truth.
We're not fighting here.
We are.
No. Okay. So, do you have any honorable mentions you wanted to throw out there?
I had a few honorable mentions and a few wild cards, actually.
Okay.
Stuff that I'm like, these are bad picks, but they could be very specialized, very interesting. Well, one of them, not the interesting ones. You know, we talked about George Washington. My alt for my small forward was Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton, because he seemed pretty athletic, you know. He seemed smooth on the court and, you know, smooth in real life, you know, played that saxophone. It will be a PR nightmare. Every press conference will be, you know, not having, you know, whatever, but that one I had to give up. My alt for center was James Madison Jr.
Oh, I had James Madison as well.
Because he was tall.
Yeah, the exact opposite of that.
I put James Madison Jr. for center because I Googled second tallest president, and it was James Madison Jr.
Do you know how tall James Madison is?
I don't know.
He's 5'4".
What?
Let me Google this.
Well, I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad I didn't pick him.
5'4". He was literally the shortest president on record.
I was confused.
You almost drafted him at center. I should have drafted Lincoln. Then you would have had a guy who's 5'4" at your biggest position.
It's true. But yeah, I said pretty whatever otherwise. So I'm glad I didn't pick him. I'm not going to
point guard, by the way, because I figured he's short. He's going to be quick. He's going to avoid defenses, but I choose not to pick him because I thought, you know, your point guard and your shooting guard have to have a good relationship, and him and Obama would not have meshed. It would not have worked.
I see. I'm assuming all my team members are friends. Like they leave their personal lives off the court, and when they get on the court, it's just pure tactics. I will not mention my first off bench pick because he is a massive war criminal. I'm not going to mention Andrew Johnson. Sucks. Was not going to pick him. I hate him. Worst president. And my wild card, another president I don't like, but I think would be an interesting wild card, is the least athletic president probably of all time, Donald J. Trump.
Oh my God.
I think Donald Trump, he would be a terrible basketball player all around. Probably one of the worst people on the court you could imagine. But I think he would, every time he gets fouled, he's like, oh, I was hit. I was fouled. And he draw it out so long, and for some reason we let him get away with it. So
I thought you were going to make a reference to him shooting the paper towels into the crowd in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, you do that. You saw that arc. You know, he would, I think, you know, even if he wasn't fouled, he just fall on the floor. But I was hit. Crooked Hillary is the referee. It's true. I think that would happen. And, you know, I think the one danger is his insane fans will rush the court on his demand. So make sure you don't play a game on a certain date early this month.
Yeah, that's true. Well, by the time this releases, this might come out in February. But to be clear, Miguel's talking about January 6th.
January 6th. One of the darkest days in American history. It could happen on the court, but you know, it's a disruption. He's a wild card.
I had one other honorable mention that was not brought up, and he was going to be my sixth man. And it's something you don't know, Miguel, is that it's something I didn't fully explain to you about sports and basketball in general, is that there's certain positions in every sport where the player is the most loved because they're a guy that comes in, he does his job. He usually doesn't complain. He's not a star. He's just there to do what he does. And so that's usually in football, that's usually the backup quarterback. In baseball, it's usually the backup catcher.
Okay.
And in basketball, it's usually a six man. That's generally the context. And so I was going to choose someone who's a locker room guy who was voted in the top 5 most preferred presidents, despite not doing a whole lot as president.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where do you think I'm going?
That's Jimmy Carter.
Yep, I was gonna do.
That's Jimmy Carter.
That was my honorable mention. He was gonna motivate the team, and that's about it. But you know, I felt like William Henry Harrison made a lot more sense in that position.
I really wanted to put Jimmy Carter in basically every position because he just seems like a swell guy. I've tried to do research. I'm like, he must have done something horrible. I'm like, I can't find it. But I just don't think he would be an athlete.
Yeah,
every picture I've seen him in doing a sport is him playing baseball in jorts. Like, it's not gonna work. I did consider him for a point guard because he is the oldest living president, outlived the Demon King, Ronald Reagan. Hallelujah. And he has endurance. That man is active.
It's true. It's true.
He's doing Habitat for Humanity or whatever at the age of like 98. But he's not going to work on the court. He's a little fella. He's just so quiet. Yeah. And
it's fair.
We are in a time of, not scoring very much because he might be like his presidency, a little inactive, a little vague, but he's pleasant. He seems like a nice guy.
And that's why I was just going to bring him on for the locker room vibes. But we got other locker room motivators in the general turned president, Dwight Eisenhower. So we got it covered.
Was Eisenhower the domino effect guy?
I don't know what you're referencing.
I don't want to get into it.
No, let's leave that conversation there.
I think Jimmy Carter would have been a great coach.
That's fair.
Even though he did have that speech about how like the national malaise of like the courtroom malaise, but it'll be nice.
Okay, so to round it out, we'll list the teams one more time just to end the segment here. So, Miguel, you have starting at point guard, John Fitzgerald Kennedy. Yes. Starting at shooting guard, Woodrow Wilson. Starting at small forward, George Walker Bush. Starting at power forward, Theodore Teddy Roosevelt. You got a lot of good nicknames in here, by the way. Mm-hmm. You got W and Teddy and whatever Woodrow Wilson's nickname was.
I will say the issue with George Bush is if someone throws a basketball at him, he might go.
Yeah, dodge it.
He might dodge it.
That's a good point.
Muscle memory. Dodge.
And then at center, you have Abe Lincoln. And then sixth man, you have Gerald Ford, who also has a nickname, Harrison.
There we go.
That's a different guy, huh?
Your team nickname.
Okay, and then my team, we have point guard Dwight D. Eisenhower, also has a nickname. Shooting guard Barack Obama. Small forward James Knox Polk. I can't even say his name correctly. Power forward William Howard Taft. Center Lyndon B. Johnson. And sixth man William Henry Harrison.
Interesting. Now, I didn't prompt you this earlier, but I was wondering, now that you have your full team, what would your team name be? I assume we're the team for Washington, D.C., but sure. What's your team name based off your players, man?
I'm going to go. Let me think about this. It's got to be something alliterative. I like alliterative team names.
Nice.
So I would say I'm just going to call them the Washington Winners. And...
The Washington Winners.
Yep, that's my.
What a lame name.
Nope, that's the team name. I could have gone Washington basketball team to follow suit with the team that used to have a racist name, now has been changed twice, but that's besides the point. Anyway. So what's your team?
I would name my team. I would name my team.
The DC definitely not going to win.
Can you cut this joke if it doesn't work?
Okay, sure.
Give it a pause. I would name my team the Washington D.C. War Criminals.
Okay. Well, that'll do it for this episode of Lots of Thoughts, a sports
Because I
podcast.
don't like a single president. All presidents have done a
We're
heinous
appreciating
thing.
your support. Thank
We
you for
can all
joining
never
us.
worship a politician.
Please don't take anything we say seriously. This is all for the fun and games of
Trump!
this. Goodbye.
Come on!
Well, that'll do it for this episode of the podcast. If you need more of our content, check the links in the description below and hit the subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube, or if you're listening on the podcast platform, click the follow button and click the 5-star rating. Click a 5-star rating. Give us a 5-star rating. You know what I'm saying. I really appreciate the support on all the platforms. The support means everything to me. So please run it up wherever you can. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Look forward to more serious sports talk next week. We'll be talking about the Super Bowl, the conference championship games, and of course, all the other trade drama in all the leagues. So thank you very much for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day.